Right, so what happened to the Lux? A lot of things actually. I don't even know where to begin. We'd be making a list about yay long. But most of it I will take the blame for. But again, like, you can't really know when these things happen because you don't have X-ray vision, you can't see what's going on inside. So anyway, we'd planned to go to Blencoe Falls and Murray Falls and Paranella Park and Mission Beach and all that sort of stuff over 3-4 days. So I got as far as Ingham, and when I was just on the outskirts of Ingham, I noticed smoke coming from the back wheel. I'd had it happen before, but it was nothing too serious. You know, it was just a little bit of smoke and I ignored it. That was when I replaced my rear axle seal. If you want to check out the video on that, I'll leave the link in the description. I'm under the impression that it's just the seal's gone again, so I'm like, I've got a seal at home, so I'll just replace it. But I noticed it was pissing out diff oil. Like, I also ended up not having any brakes. Oh, that's bloody weird, you know. So yeah, I lost brakes. Well, it was intermittent braking. If you own a Hilux, you'll know, like, sometimes when you put your foot down, there's no brakes. And what that can be put down to is your wheel cylinder is leaking. It's just one of those things. So anyway, I got RACQ out. They advised me not to drive it. Well, they said unless you take it easy and you can try and linger home. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not allowing the trip to end up with me on the back of a tow truck. No way. So I ended up thinking, well, let's just try and idle her home, you know, limp the rest of the way, sort of thing. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to pull in at Jourama Falls and have a swim. I hadn't been there in years, but the thing is, I'd never camped there before, so I was like, oh. Well, I got there and I was like, seeing there was not that many people there, so I was like, oh, I wonder if there'd be a camp spot available here. So off we went. Booked a camp there. It was bloody beautiful. And the second day went to Toomulla, as you've seen. Went to a few other good places, Rolling Stone, Mount Halifax, places like that. So anyway, when I got home, I realised I had to pull it all apart. Had to find out why the brakes weren't working. Had to find out why it was leaking in general. So I pulled the brake drum off. She was bloody full of oil. I checked behind the wheel cylinder and realised that the wheel cylinder was leaking. She was cactus, and the brake shoes completely disintegrated. Like, as you can see, there's nothing left of them there, just nothing at all. So anyway, I'm thinking, okay, so at this point I need new brake shoes, I need a new wheel cylinder. And I already had the seal, so I'm like, alright. So I went to Repco, bought all the parts, and started getting to work. But then, as I pulled it out, I realised all the ball bearings had gone in the wheel bearing. There was like nothing left of it. So just ended up adding to the list of things. So I'm like, okay, so now I need a wheel bearing too. Went and bought a wheel bearing. I needed someone to press it on, so I managed to somehow find a mechanic that was willing to do it. Dropped it off, and when I went back to pick it up, they told me that the whole axle's fucked. And I'm just like, yay. So I bought all the parts and I couldn't even do it. So I had to buy a whole new axle. So I called up Partington Wreckers. I said, have you got a rear axle or an LM106 Hilux? Thankfully they did. But originally I'm just after the shaft, you know, like nothing special. So the next morning they called me up and said, yeah, your axle's ready to go, come pick it up. So I went and picked it up, and fella brought it out, and it was the drum and everything, like the brakes, the cylinder, like everything was there. the whole drum, essentially. So I was like, wow, I didn't realise, like, I thought it was just like the shaft. So I was like, you beauty. So thanks Partington 4-wheel drive for that, you legends. So I ended up just coming off, letting the brakes off from the back a little bit, and put some rust converter on. She was a bit rusty, but that's okay. Slid her on, bolted it up, bled the brakes. Luckily I had Shalina to help me bleed the brakes, which was lovely. Thank you. So bled the brakes and bolted it all back up, filled the diff back up again, and off she went. So hindsight's 20/20, but if I had just called up Partington and bought the whole thing, which I thought about doing, but then I'm like, nah, you know, like, they probably wouldn't sell it with the drum on and whatever, you know, that was my thought process. So I'm like, nah, I just got to buy the parts individually. So 160 bucks, I could have bought the whole thing, got back on the road. It wouldn't have, you know, it's not, obviously you got to change the brake shoes eventually and whatnot because they're going to be uneven, but you know, it gets you out of trouble, sort of thing. So if I had just paid the 160 rather, because I ended up paying all up with the parts and the thing and all that, I ended up paying like over $400 for everything. And now I'm just thinking in hindsight, if I had just bought the part second hand, I would have been alright. But you know, like they say, hindsight's 20/20. So there you go. So what it turned out to be was that there was wear on the axle shaft, and that was causing the seals not to seal properly. So the rear axle seal not to seal properly. So it was leaking out into the brake drum. They had swelled the brake shoes, and the brake shoes were rubbing on the drum with a mix of the diff oil, and that was causing a lot of heat, and it was causing the drum to heat up and smoke and whatnot, which had caused everything to melt. Everything, like the heat was like, I'm talking this was like red hot. Like it caused the bearings to fail, it caused the wheel cylinder to fail, it caused the brake shoes to break. Everything, like even the pins that hold the brake shoes on were melted. There was nothing left of them. So yeah, it was a nice little experience, but you learn from your mistakes. And before I go on my next big adventure, where we're going to try and get to Blanco Falls again, I think I might take a step back and let a mechanic go over it, because I'm not a mechanic. Like I've said many times, I'm just an amateur. Like I'm always just that guy that's like, if I can have a go and see if I can fix it myself, I will, but then if I can't, then I'll pay someone else to do it. But I always like to have a go at things. But yeah, that's where we're at now. So thanks for watching.